I love it. See, normally when everybody's having a good time and you do that, it takes a few times, but I also know everybody's excited about our program today. I am too. So, good afternoon. Welcome to the February 6th Kiwanis Club of Birmingham meeting. It's a great privilege to be back at the podium and to serve as your president today. President Dr. Tracy Moran Adams wishes she could be here today and extends a heartfelt welcome to everyone, especially our esteemed speaker and guests. We are honored to host the esteemed Mayor Randall Woodfin, a fellow Kiwanis Club member, as he presents his State of the City address. A warm welcome to all of our guests today, including members of the Birmingham City Council and team members of Mayor Woodfin's office. I'd like to invite Kiwanian and Birmingham City Council member Crystal Smitherin to give the invocation and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Will you please bow your head? Creator and sustainer of all that is or ever will be, accept our thanks for this day and all its blessings. We ask that you guide and direct our club, its leaders, and our actions. Grant that each of us may feel our responsibility to Kiwanis, to our community, to our country, and indeed to all countries and peoples. Bless our fellowship today and bless the food for the nourishment of our bodies. In your service, amen. Salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Smitherman. I'd now like to invite Kiwanis Club of Birmingham Secretary John Burton for the podium for announcements.
Good afternoon. We'd like to welcome all of our guests today. While there are too many of you to introduce you individually, if I could get all of our guests to stand up so we can recognize you, we appreciate that. Welcome to all of you. Today's Birmingham Minute keeps it downtown as we take a look at the heaviest corner on earth. In a January 1911 article in Jemison magazine entitled "Birmingham to have the heaviest corner in the South," the announcement was made that the fourth corner at 1st Avenue North and 20th Street would be developed with a skyscraper, completing the heavy corner with the four buildings we now know. From left to right in this 1916 photo, the 16-story Brown Marks building from 1906, the 21-story American Trust and Savings Bank building from 1912, which we now know as the John Hand building, 16-story Empire building from 1909, and the smallest and oldest, the 10-story Woodward building from 1902. Local hyperbole stretched the heaviest corner in the South to heaviest corner on earth, and the name stuck. Surviving good times and bad over the next century plus some 1970s, 80s plans to tear down the Woodward building to build a parking deck, the four buildings still stand today. There's some good news in case you haven't noticed. The only empty building of the four, the Brown Marks building, or Brown Marks Tower, is currently undergoing a $49.8 million renovation by Ascent Hospitality to convert it into a dual-branded hotel, a 190-room AC hotel for business travelers and a 148-room Element hotel with extended stay rooms complete with kitchens. For the first time, at least I can remember, in 2025, all four buildings will be occupied. So now, bring back the Tower Cafe. We are now looking forward to our signature service project, Kiwanis Reads. This spring, we are serving even more students through our new partnership with Birmingham City Schools. In all, we'll be reading to more than 500 students. We currently have a waiting list for organizations interested in partnering with our club. Kiwanians, we need your help to make this project an ongoing success for children in our community. Look for more information and a sign-up in this Thursday's email newsletter and in the lobby. Nominations are now open for the Birmingham Business Hall of Fame. Since 1997, the Kiwanis Club of Birmingham has inducted 147 exceptional leaders into the Birmingham Business Hall of Fame. Nominations are accepted for outstanding business leaders who have made extraordinary contributions to the greater Birmingham area. This year, other business and civic organizations outside of Kiwanis can nominate individuals. Find the application and more information about this signature event in your Thursday email newsletter and on our website, kcob.org. Flyers are also available in the lobby. And now I'll turn it back over to President Davis.
Thanks, John. I'd like to now introduce everyone at the head table. Please stand when I say your name and remain standing until the end. The Kiwanian providing today's invocation, Birmingham City Council member and attorney with Smitherman Law Office, LLC, Crystal Smitherman. Prosper Birmingham President and immediate past president of the Kiwanis Club of Birmingham, J.W. Carpenter. Shareholder with Maynard Nexon PC, Kiwanis Club of Birmingham Secretary, John Burton. Vice President of Alabama Power Company's Birmingham Division, my good friend and colleague, Mila Calhoun. With that, Mila, will you please introduce today's speaker?
Sure, I'll introduce today's speaker. In fact, this is an introduction in two parts. I am your warm-up act. And I will tell you that it's a joy to be here to introduce the mayor, as it always is. But uncharacteristically, I did not talk with his staff about what he was going to say so that I could frame what I was going to say. But I will tell you, there is so much good that is happening in the city of Birmingham. There are so many things that we could learn about today. It could be a discussion of the transformation of our physical space, what the grants, the choice grants that's going to transform our landscape, the opportunities at Caraway, and I saw Robert Simon here. It could be what's happening or soon will happen in Smithfield. Things that will really reimagine physically where we live. Or, I don't know, you could talk about transformational programs like Birmingham Promise, and I know we have some students here. Things that really invest in the scholars that come from our community and give them the lift and the life they will need to come back and transform the city beyond the things that you even imagine. Or it could be the investment in a program called Birmingham Talks that gives our children, our youngest citizens, the power of words. Magical things. You know, the city and the mayor often speak about putting people first. And in ways large and small, this mayor does that. In ways that speak to community, he does that. In ways that speak to individuals, he does that. I was with the mayor and a group of others last week at a gathering where we were really talking about hard things, how to reimagine community development and neighborhood revitalization and housing, and all of the things that we know are necessary to really create the thriving community that we want to have and will have. But what was important about that occasion for me, beyond the discussion that was vibrant and real, was the fact that this mayor had with him a young man, Jacob, a scholar in Birmingham's city schools, who sat and saw and watched and learned with you all day to understand what it means to contribute to civic life. That is what our mayor does for our city with our help. Now let's watch the video.
6 years ago, my hometown entrusted us with an important mission: to build a better Birmingham. And we went to work, tearing down blighted structures that plagued neighborhoods for decades. We raised new homes, literally opening the doors for new generations of homeowners. We smoothed damaged streets, but most importantly, we listened. We opened the doors of City Hall to our residents, giving them a seat at the governing table. We hit the streets of our 99 neighborhoods, seeing residents' concerns with our own eyes and hearing their issues with our own ears. Though we have done so much for our city, we knew our residents needed more. Every great team needs a game plan. And for this team, we found our blueprint, our diagram for a bolder, brighter Birmingham. We're mapping out a city where a grandmother can stand on her porch and see new homes develop in her historic neighborhood, where her grandson is set on course to achieve his dreams, thanks to the reading initiative like Birmingham Page Pals and the Birmingham Promise, where direct paths to college and workforce are guaranteed. Where new grocery stores are a much-needed oasis in former food deserts. And A-list entertainers are now just down the road at Protective Stadium. We're building the Birmingham that families deserve, that we all deserve. 6 years later, the promise of putting people first is stronger than ever. And it continues right here, right now. This is our blueprint for success.
Hey, good afternoon, Kiwanians. It's good to be here. The City Council decided to let us out early so I can join you. It's good to be a member of this prestigious organization that does so much in our community. I want to thank you for allowing me to be here. I want to thank Mila for that warm introduction as well. And I want to thank all of you all, as busy as you are out of your schedule, for taking the time to be here for the state of the city. Excuse me, I have some sinus drainage. It seems to never stop. But your team was kind enough to provide me some tea before I walked up here, so hopefully it'll do the trick. Before I get started in some topics I want to share with you this afternoon, I do want to take the time to acknowledge my wife, Kendra Woodfin, who was present, as well as the administration and team members that are present. That includes department heads, as well as mayor, staff, team members. Also want to acknowledge the Birmingham City Council is present. Now, you all have seen Crystal Smitherman, who represents District 6, but as I call the others, please stand. I'm just going to go in the order I see here. I have Valerie Abbott, who represents District 3. President of the Birmingham City Council and represents District 5, Dr. Darrell O'Quinn. District 9 is represented by Councilor LaTanya Tate. And District 8, my friend, Carol Clark. And Pro Tem of the Birmingham City Council represents District 7, Wardeen Alexander. And everybody knows Hunter Williams, who represents District 2. Everybody at Birmingham City Council. Two of their colleagues could not be present today. That's JT Moore, who represents District 4, and Clinton Woods, who represents District 1. But there is no island approach at City Hall. There is the mayor doing everything. I'm honored to work with the City Council. We're all in the trenches representing the people of Birmingham. So again, I want to publicly thank them for their work. I mainly have 3 topics I want to share with everybody this afternoon, and then we can get into some questions and answers. Those 3 topics are centered around economic development, 2, education, and 3, public safety. Now, there are so many other things to talk about, but with our limited time, I want to isolate it to those 3. But before I share more of those, I want to talk about what happened in 2023. 2023 was such an important year for our city. It was the year we marked 60 years, 6 decades since the groundbreaking achievements of the Civil Rights Movement. And through 12 months of celebration and acknowledgement, 12 months of quiet reflections and new awakenings, one thing became very, very clear to me. It became clear to the council, and it became very clear to our administration. Birmingham's legacy in this world is not defined by the struggles we endured during the darkest days of the movement. It is so much bigger than dogs and hoses and bombs. Our legacy is in the template we created for change. The template we created for change. It's not the insurmountable mountains that were placed in the paths of our foremothers and our forefathers. Our legacy is in how they got over them. And so as I look out into the headlines today, and we all see the same headlines, we see the Middle East, we see Ukraine, the unfairly overlooked crisis in Congo. We see the pain of injustice across our world, the same strife, and in some cases, even worse, that enveloped our city 60 years ago. But the legacy of Birmingham stands on the audacity of hope. The catalyst for change, the desire to overcome. Hope, change, and the desire to overcome are the lessons Birmingham continues to teach the world. And it's important that we as a city and as a state, believe it or not, practice what we preach here on Alabama's red clay. But the truth is, that's why I'm very optimistic about Birmingham in 2024 and beyond. But I got to tell you, Kiwanians, as much as I'm an optimist, I'm also very pragmatic and a realist. As a leader, that means being comfortable with being uncomfortable. Which brings me to a topic that all of us should be uncomfortable with, and that is the economic identity, the economic development, and the economic direction of our city. So let's start with building a foundation for economic growth. During our first term as an administration, we focused on a lot of things designed to strengthen the city's infrastructure and the ability to move forward. We did a lot of research, especially through the Brookings Project, and created solid foundations to attract investments in our city and its people. Things like Prosper, the Birmingham Promise that Mila mentioned earlier, and over $100 million in funding to build a stronger Birmingham. Now, we'll continue to do that work. We'll continue to build on that. We've also been working more closely with local governments to do things better and more efficiently. But there is a need for change. There's fundamentally a need for change. As many of you know, I have believed that economic development functions have not been effective for our city, for our county, or our region. Among other things, there are too many organizations working in silos, some doing very, very good work, like Prosper. But the fragmentation is both unproductive and very, very expensive. That is worth repeating. The fragmentation that exists in our economic development world is both unproductive and expensive. And so I've made it clear that the things that need to change for everyone's benefit, and I am committed to playing a leadership role in that. So the question becomes, what's next? What's next on the horizon for our economic development future? Well, I've been talking to and listening to a lot of people about what's next. And we have studied other communities that have made significant moves in growing their economies, like Oklahoma City, Charleston, and Greenville, South Carolina, and even Pittsburgh, another former steel town. And we've learned a lot from studying and benchmarking those other cities. And so I am still convinced that we have to change the way we approach the future of our economy. Now, some of you have heard me say or heard that I've said, we need to blow up the structures we have. But we also have to be smart about it. And where there are opportunities to build on what we've already have, it makes sense to do that. So that's what we are in the process of exploring. But I do want to end this topic of our economic identity, our economic development, and our economic direction on progress made. Over many months, there have been serious and frank conversations about what needs to happen in order for our community to build a vibrant economy that serves all of our region's citizens, but also addresses the concerns we have for our city. There's been a lot of progress, and I now believe that there are opportunities to make significant progress And there can be a clear path forward if we do the following three things: work together, gather other leaders, and respect the interests and needs of all. But make no mistake, Kiwanians, and let me be very clear when I say this: Birmingham is the economic center of the state of Alabama. And so let us do what's necessary to be comfortable being uncomfortable as we continue to secure our role as the key player in this state. Now, I am excited about some of our gains in infrastructure. This is a deviation from those three things I told you I would talk about. But one of the biggest questions I get daily is about streets, and it goes something like this: hey, Mayor, when are y'all coming to pave my street or fix this pothole? And my answer is, if we haven't gotten there already, we'll be there soon. 173 miles of streets have been paved since 2017, which includes 50 miles of streets paved last year. Now, if you can envision 173 miles, that's a stretch of road longer than the distance between Birmingham and Atlanta. And so we got more infrastructure investments we need to do in sidewalks, more infrastructure developments we need to do in stormwater, and we'll continue to make those necessary investments in our city. But another important investment, everyone, and one that I am excited about and one that you hear me talk about often, and I will always talk about this, is education. I do want you to know there are gains in education I'll speak to. I want to start with Birmingham Talks, another program Mila mentioned earlier. It is now known as Small Magic, but Birmingham Talks is a free citywide program that works with children from birth to 3 years old. It helps them build lifetime literacy. They work with both our children, our parents, as well as caregivers to stimulate vocabulary as well as brain development. Some of you may say, why this program? The answer is simple. Because we have the data that continues to show us that the building blocks between the ages of 1 and 5 is where we need to make the necessary and most important investments in all of our next generation's education. Simply put, we're planting the seeds for a lifetime of learning earlier. Small Magic in Birmingham Talks, if you were not aware of, has secured more than $3.5 million in funds and pledges, including a historic $1 million investment from the city of Birmingham. From early education, we go to grade school, and a program I hope you heard of called Page Pals. This is a reading program designed to produce more effective third grade student readers, both inside and outside of the classroom. This is critical, Kiwanians, very, very critical as it relates not only to their age, but to increased literacy. And through the help of volunteers, we're providing free tutoring to those students. If you're wondering to yourself, how can I get involved? Please pull out your phone right now. Don't hesitate. Because this will send you to bhamuFirst.org, where you get a chance to be a part of a 750 team coalition of tutors and readers. But of course, I have to touch on an initiative that is very, very dear and near to my heart. That is the Birmingham Promise. It is our free scholarship and $15 an hour apprenticeship program. Many of you all should be aware of it because I come here every year and tell you about it. I just want you to know in advance, I'm going to tell you about it next year as well. But through the Promise, Kiwanians, we are ensuring that graduates of Birmingham City Schools can attend any public college or university in Alabama tuition free. On that note, Mila has mentioned it, but I want these two young people to stand. Two special guests. Michaela Gibbons of Carver High School, who was a Birmingham Promise intern with the Birmingham Business Journal, as well as Dylan Timon. I got to get his name right, as Dylan is his first name. He attends Parker High School, and he is a Birmingham Promise intern with Alabama Power. This is our future, everyone, and all of their classmates and their students at their schools. I want to thank all the small businesses, all of corporate Birmingham, who are in this room and not in this room, for making the continued necessary investments in the Birmingham Promise, which is not just a program, but an investment in our future. Thank you so much. Just to date, $5.5 million in scholarships have been distributed to nearly 1,000 Birmingham City School students like Michaela and Dylan since 2020. But again, my optimism is balanced with being pragmatic and a realist. You see, we average about 1,000 graduates a year. Only 450 to 500 of them attend a college or a university. And so it is incumbent upon all of us in this room, not just the school system, to make sure that the other 500 students have a path into our workforce or a career technical certificate or go into our military coming out of high school. Because this is how we build our workforce. This is how we retain talent in our state. And this is how we break generational curses and provide opportunities for the next generation. Now, I can't leave this podium or this room without talking about public safety. For the first time in 5 years, homicides have decreased in 2023. It's nothing to brag on. It is our desire and our goal for that trend to continue to decrease. But one homicide is too many. Public safety remains a major issue in our city, and although I applaud Chief Thurman and all Birmingham police officers who've taken nearly 17,000 illegal guns off the streets since our administration has been in existence, I've often said that public safety cannot just be a BPD issue. It is a community issue. And it is one that every person in this room has a role to play and can play that role. We spent $8 million annually for gun violence prevention, reentry programs, mental health services, and other programs for our students. Our conflict resolution programs, which first started with high school males, has now expanded to female students, elementary school students, and students who live in our housing authority, all thanks to the Common Ground program. And we continue to support our Restore Juvenile Reentry program as well, which provides support to our youth ages 16 to 19 who are currently part of the state's Department of Youth Services. But also in an effort to provide more positive influences and skills for our young people, we made an additional $1 million investment in safe havens at our Birmingham recreation centers. And we'll continue to support financial literacy as well as other programs that break the cycle of hopelessness and crime in our community. Kiwanians, I do want to tell you that in 2024 and beyond, we're not just putting people first. We're making lives better for everyone in Birmingham, in our communities, in our 99 neighborhoods. I believe this is how we progress together. As I've stated at the beginning of what I've shared, the audacity of hope, the catalyst for change, the desire to overcome. This is Birmingham, not just from 1963 to 2023, but 2024 and beyond. Our administration, this council, I believe Kiwanians, and other civic organizations, corporate Birmingham, our small business community, our nonprofit community, and our faith-based community, we all stand ready to continue to set the standard for a progressive city where we focus on improving quality of life. Thank you so much. And now I would like to reserve the rest of our time, Mr. President, for questions. I looked at him. I know you're the
All of
president.
us. It takes all of us. It takes all of us.
Don't kill me. But Leah, however you would like to facilitate the remaining of our time, I do think it's important that I know folk in this room, every year I come, have some pretty intense, laser-focused questions that challenge the administration, that challenge me as a leader. So we have this mic here, but if you don't want to come up, if you want to project from where you're seated or standing, prepared to take any of your questions with the remaining of our time.
Yeah, we've got mics kind of set up in various locations that'll make it convenient for all.
And I'm not going to let any of you fool me because I come here every year. None of you all are shy. So who's first? Yes, sir.
Mayor, thank you so much for what you're doing for our great city. And I want to ask you one very important question as far as the educational situation that you pointed out. I know that we have an educational situation here of some $84 million a year payroll in Birmingham Southern. What do you perceive your role is and the city's role is in rescuing, if you will, one of our most important educational resources?
It's a good question. I think the city of Birmingham, I want to first start by acknowledging the council for the risk they take every day. You see, they're held accountable just like I am to everyday citizens who they represent. And sometimes we make decisions that are the right decision, but sometimes in the immediate, either people can't see or there's a lot of loud noise and there's some resistance to the decision that needs to be made. We collectively made a decision to support Birmingham Southern, and the reason is simple. One, we believe in higher educational institutions within our city limits, literally create a path and provide opportunity for the next generation. It does not stop at their education, though. Every young person that's on that campus has a choice when they finish with their degree to remain a productive citizen in our city through gainful employment and be a part of our workforce in the city. Also on that campus, you have an existing workforce. You've already stated the numbers. Number of employees producing that amount of payroll taxes. That's not something we, the city council or the mayor's office, or as an administration, we need to lose. But I think the other thing is more just where my moral compass is. We've seen other institutions fail in the city, and we've seen the ripple those failures create. One, in this case, you have an institution of higher learning that is embedded in a very historical neighborhood where a lot of citizens have pride. And that's on the west side of town. But in our recent history, just over the last, I would say 20 years or less, you had another institution, not of higher learning, but one that was a hospital, Caraway, where I was actually born. And when that hospital closed, it left a hole, if you will, a crater that sent a negative ripple for the residents who live in that area, such as Druid Hills and Norwood and Fountain Heights, and I can go on. And so when we make decisions, we base them off doing the right thing. In this case, I think the state may be short-sighted. And when I say the state, I'm referring to the state treasurer. You presented the question, so I'm going to go beyond the city and talk about what Daniel Coleman as president has done. You know, he's a non-traditional president, and I think he has the financial acumen to put this institution on a sound footing. Not of his making, by the way. And so I think he's done the necessary thing to pull in alumni. I think he's done the necessary thing to pull in fundraising from private sector, et cetera. But I want the state to know the institution did not ask to just have money. I think the word loan is pretty clear. And I think it's short-sighted not to support the word LOAN. because there is a return with that institution remaining open that supports not only the future of our workforce, not only the existing workforce on the campus via professors, et cetera, but you're talking about something that is a community anchor that sends a positive ripple throughout that entire quarter. Hope I answered your question. Who's next?
Mr. Mayor, could you summarize some of the very positive things I know you're doing in terms of regional cooperation?
Yeah, here's the short version. Mike, good to see you, sir. Y'all know we have a redundancy of services in this county. You know we have too many cities in this county, too many school systems in this county, too many police departments, 911 services in this county. It's stupid. I said it. There it is. You should feel better with me saying that out loud for you. I say things that you think about, but you may not want to say out loud, so I got you. I think in this case, I'm proud to stand with other mayors in the region, particularly in Jefferson County, where we have a regular cadence meeting and we talk about things that builds trust among us. We talk about some of the low-hanging fruit things we can do to build efficiencies and tear down some of the redundancies. You've heard them in the past, so I'll just say this. The next one we have to get over, which I think is simple, is the redundancy of 911 services. I'm positive and I'm encouraged that at some point I can come back to you and give you more tangible things we've done outside of the no poaching agreement. In addition to that, outside of the making our 911 more efficient to provide better public safety services to all the residents in this region. So Mike, very great question, but the good thing is this, we're actually talking. Believe it or not, that may sound like a low bar, but everything started with at least talking. If you talk to people, you realize there are more similarities and things we have in common than there are things that separate us. Mike, in addition to that, I think talking allows you to start building not only consistent communication, but trust. Once you can reach trust, it allows us to do some of those easy things, and some of those easy things then allows you to do some hard things. And I think over the years, you'll continue to see us have this conversation where we can get to doing some of the hard things to make our region more efficient and how we provide service for all the residents in our region. All right, those are two easy questions. Where's the hard one? Mike, I'm just playing. Yes.
Hey, Mayor, today's the first day of the Alabama legislative session, and you and the council put together a great list of priorities. Can you talk a little bit more specifically about some of the affordable housing stuff?
Yeah, so everybody knows Birmingham, Alabama, founded in 1871. At the height of our city population was probably around 300, somewhere between 340, 360,000 people in the late 70s. We have a population today roughly around 200,000. But I want you to imagine that that same infrastructure grid still exists, but a decrease in population has left some of our historic neighborhoods in a state of shock. And that shock has led to what I would call, unfortunately, a considerable amount of dilapidated properties throughout our city. Now, we've been aggressive over the last 6 years. Thousands of blighted structures removed, millions of dollars invested in that removal. But we're now at a point where we rather invest that money in going vertical with infill housing, as well as other forms of support of affordable housing, separate from the market doing its thing. With that said, with the American Rescue Plan dollars, we actually set aside $10 million for an affordable housing trust fund. But we need state approval and state support to allow us to use and invest that money in affordable housing. In addition to that, we need some more efficiencies in our land bank that allows us to be more aggressive and move with more efficiency and faster in taking these dilapidated properties that aren't providing any forms of tax on our tax rolls, and be in a position to get them back on and provide that form of housing, whether it's affordable or market, to those who need it and for those who may want a home. You know, there's a generation, 2 generations after me, X and Y and Z, who want to be homeowners. We find when we look at our data locally, it matches what's going on in the nation where baby boomers don't want to downgrade necessarily. I think in addition to that, Generation Y, Generation Z are comfortable and open with being renters. A lot want to be homeowners, but some want to be renters. I think in this affordable housing space, Birmingham has done very, very good in the multifamily phase. But I think we want to focus some of our efforts around affordable housing on the single family, duplex, triplex, and other forms of housing that exist to support affordable. Great question. Who's next? David?
I have first, welcome, nice to have you here. I have a comment and then a question. First, the comment is, as someone who has the opportunity to work on various projects in our city, I've said this before when you have addressed it. It's a pleasure to work with the various department heads that you have put in place at City Hall. They are responsive. Now, they may not always agree with the position you take, but their attitude is, let's figure out a solution and move the project forward. So I commend you and I commend the department heads here at the city. I can say the same thing about the council, most of the time. My question to you is, it's an easy one, but when you travel the country and you attend a meeting of various mayors, and you come upon a mayor who's probably never visited our city, how do you describe our city to them? What are the characteristics? What are some of the thoughts that you share with someone who's never been here?
That's a good question. It's not necessarily a simple answer. It's not a short answer. That's what I meant. One of the things I say about Birmingham is, it's in question form. Have you ever been to Birmingham? A lot of times the answer is no. And then for those who have been to Birmingham, I split the question and I say the following. When you got on the ground in Birmingham, did the image in your head match what you saw on the ground? The answer is always no. So what people see here who've never been here or first time, and what we know is that Birmingham, as it relates to our topography, is not only a beautiful place, but it's very beautiful people here as well. And I'm honest with them though. I tell them this was a city founded in 1871 where a lot of people took risks. And they made investments in our natural resources and they won. And I tell them in 2024, unfortunately, and beyond, I said a lot of this in 2023, that generations have passed and people have become more risk adverse. And if we want to grow, then locally we got to take risks if we want outsiders and those who don't live here but have resources to take risk on us as well. And then I tell them about the amazing food, of course. And I tell them that this is a city that has an extreme amount of grit. That there is an element here where, as it relates to risk, you can win. You can make the necessary investments. And there's a ripple that not only helps you, but helps the people that live here. I tell them about the culture and the scenes that exist here. I tell them that although it's 74% Black, it's still a very diverse place in thoughts and opinions and ideas, as well as opportunity. Now, after 5, David, when there's alcohol, I tell them a lot more. Go ahead, Tom.
Mr. Mayor, can you talk about what the city is now doing and more importantly, what the strategic plan is in the future to leverage our unique civil rights heritage for tourism and economic development?
Great.
By the way, Denise Gilmore on your staff has done a great job in that regard, particularly she was the interim executive director of the Institute, which was basically a second full-time job, and the grandmother of the renovation of the A.G. Gaston Hotel.
Yes, sir. Look, you just answered the question. Boom. So I do want to acknowledge Denise Gilmore and the entire team at City Hall. We have a team, a social justice and racial equity team. Tom, what I love about your question and what I love about them, everybody, is that they work with existing partners. So the city of Birmingham as an administration, we don't, as it relates to our civil rights heritage and what does that mean for our present and our future, we don't have that conversation on an island or in isolation. There are many partners that are doing the work, such as DeWanda Thompson and her entire team at the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute, such as Reverend Price and Mr. Ted Devereaux at 16th Street Baptist Church, as well as the entire team in partnership with the National Park Service at the A.G. Gaston Motel, and many other areas I've failed to mention. But what I like what they've done over the last few years is without me being there, there's a convening. And so there's alignment among all of those who touch our civil rights heritage. Now, we were fortunate that Congresswoman Tara Sewell made that what the designation it is from the federal government. But I think what Odessa Woodfolk built with our Civil Rights Institute in the 90s, along with Mary Arrington, I think in 2024 and beyond, it's time for the private sector, corporate Birmingham, and the city of Birmingham, along with those partners I just named, to get back to the table to talk about the necessary financial investments that need to be made in upgrading our existing facilities that house all of our heritage, civil rights heritage, that is. And then put us in a position, which I believe we are nationally and internationally, for people to come and see. You know, beyond our actual borders of our country, internationally, people, I did not just say that what I said about what's happening in the world. Internationally, people still look to Birmingham as a blueprint of what happened here as it relates to whatever their existing conflict is in their country, their state, their city, who are not American. We have a story to tell, Tom. We need to continue to tell it. I think one of the ways we can tell is make investments in our existing facilities without necessarily creating something new. And then make sure through that convening power, they have the resources they need to continue to attract people who want to see them. Scores of thousands of people come and visit those facilities every year. We want to continue to make that happen. And I'm confident in the current people who are in a leadership position to do that, whether it's through their boards, their CEOs, or executives, that work is being in place, that being done now. It's up to the city of Birmingham to continue to support the work that's already being done. Still have time, apparently. Who's next? Reverend.
Thank you very much for being here. Glad to see you. Question is this. A couple of months ago, the report for education was presented, and Birmingham City Schools had made modest progress. Most people would have shouted hallelujah, we're done, but you shared your concern about we are celebrating too early for too little. Can you expound on that and share with us your broad vision of education and how it impacts economic development in the city?
Yes, sir, I can. It's a great question, by the way. So the first thing I want to do is just acknowledge the progress made. You know, the media is here now, and I know they will not capture everything I say today. They'll take something either controversial in this hand or a snippet in this hand, and that's all you'll read. And then you'll say, the mayor said that? Well, they missed the entirety of everything I said. And so in December, as the year ended, I did talk about the state of our city schools. And I do want to acknowledge Dr. Mark Sullivan, superintendent of Birmingham City Schools. I do want to acknowledge the school board. I do want to acknowledge every professional teacher, educator in our school system and say thank you for the work they do. Their job is not easy. Their job is hard. They should be paid more. With that said, I don't believe in mediocrity. I don't believe in complacency. And as I share with students that I've been sharing with for 15 years now, don't get comfortable with C's. There is a subject possibly that is really, really hard and you give it everything and it may not work out and the best you can get is a C. But multiple C's usually means you either are lazy, don't care, or doing a bare minimum. And I don't want our system to get complacent or be complacent. And I believe at the same time of saying that we put so much emphasis on the system, we forget that there are other adults in the community that are part of the village that we're all responsible for investing in and educating our children. That for the first 5 years of their life, they weren't even in the school system. And that's probably the most important window, the foundation, if you would, before we talk about what happens K through 3rd and 4th through 5th and 6th through 8th and 9th through 12th. So my thoughts are pretty simple, everybody. I think programs like Birmingham Talks is the full investment we need to be going towards and make every single necessary investment in Birth to 5. If we do the foundation right, if we set the foundation right, then it makes K through 5th and the building block, 6th through 8th, and then 9th through 12th more manageable. I do think that we are, and I want to be very clear in what I say. We have to move like we're in a crisis. You know, when you're in a crisis, I don't have time to worry about how you feel about what I'm saying. And I want to be respectful, and I need to be sensitive to the issues that exist. But when you're in a crisis, all of your energy, all of your output should be focused on the solutions to educate children. And there is no one solution. There is no, we should do it this way and ignore everything else. And I want to be a partner with the school system and with educators, along with parents, along with corporate Birmingham and small businesses and nonprofits and churches to make every single necessary investment in our children. It's not all on the school system. It's not all on the superintendent or our teachers. All of us have a role to play. So, I'm not sure if I answered your question. I'm not sure we even have the time. But that's some thoughts, and she's going to pull the mic on me in a minute. Is that it?
I think so. We're close to time.
We're close to time, so I have one last thing I want to tell you. Rick or anybody in the booth, if you can pull up that last thing related to Connect Birmingham. Show of hands, who is a small business owner in this room? All right. Show of hands, whether it's their home or their place of business has some form of use of cameras. Show of hands, high hands. Any form of cameras, video to record what's happening when you're not there. Outside exterior cameras. This is my request to this entire room. I need you to download this or go to birminghamal.gov/connectbirmingham. This is our new form. This is our new version of citizen participation related to reducing crime. So you've heard of Neighborhood Watch. This is the latest version of Neighborhood Watch where your exterior cameras can participate in our real-time crime center, whether you're a small business or a homeowner or a renter. And through the use of that, you now become additional eyes for our police to engage in the ability to literally take criminals off the street. The best and fastest way to reduce crime is to actually arrest those committing crime. And it turns out in our community, a lot of things have changed related to the culture of either, quote, no snitching or people afraid to come forward with information. But your cameras allows a different way of engaging in the ability to solve crime and investigate crime. So I have requests for you usually. This is my request this year. Participate, sign up for Connect Birmingham. Be our additional eyes and ears. Help us solve crime. Help us take criminals off the streets. Help us decrease crime. With that said, I'm always honored to be a Kiwanian. I'm grateful to be able to give you the state of the city. Hate that we never have enough time. Grateful for you to be here. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much.